Welcome to this high-speed explainer covering the weekend's global wrap-up for July 19th, 2026. We are looking at a world that is moving incredibly fast right now across geopolitics, sports, tech, and the climate. Okay, let's dive into this.
Right off the bat, three massive numbers really define the shifts we've seen over the past 48 hours. $50 billion for an unprecedented tech pivot, 106, the exact minute that decided the World Cup, and $90, which is the price oil is flirting with as global security faces some truly existential stakes. So let's start with the heaviest story of the weekend.
Section 1. Conflict and economic fallout. The domino effect.
We're seeing exactly how quickly geopolitical conflict ripples out into our daily lives. On day 9 of the conflict, the rhetoric has just reached a fever pitch. Both sides exchanged fresh strikes this weekend, and we have a stark warning from Iran's IRGC advisor of full-scale invasion and annihilation if U.S. attacks continue. Meanwhile, Iran's foreign ministry has officially declared the diplomatic track dead, completely shutting down the Qatar-Pakistan mediation efforts.
The sheer speed of this escalation is staggering. Since this began in February, we've seen at least 46 Iranians and 16 Americans killed. Just over the weekend, CENTCOM hit roughly 90 military targets. But it's not just intensifying, it's spreading. Houthis are now ramping up strikes on Saudi positions. It brings this severe, chaotic Yemen dimension into a war that is already dragging in multiple nations.
So, what does this all mean for us? Well, the economic ripple effects are hitting global markets hard. With the Strait of Hormuz blocked, Brent crude is closing in on $90 a barrel. Gold is absolutely soaring, near $4,000. The situation is so severe, the IMF just downgraded 2026 global growth from 3.5 down to 3.0%. And the inflation threat? It's so real that Dallas Fed President Lori Logan actually broke consensus to call for an immediate interest rate hike. Add in the fact that farmers are bracing for looming fertilizer shortages, and yeah, the threat of everyday inflation is far from over for the consumer.
Moving on to Section 2, World Cup Final, Flawless versus Chaotic.
Let's shift gears from chaotic geopolitics to some historic drama over at MetLife Stadium. Spain just captured their second World Cup title, and they did it with a phenomenal 106th-minute winning goal by Ferran Torres. But the contrast between these two teams was like night and day. Spain was flawless, undefeated, 7 clean sheets, and they conceded literally one single goal the entire tournament. Argentina, on the other hand, they drew some fierce global criticism for a really cynical tactical approach. 0 first-half shots, an Enzo Fernandez red card, and it all ended in a massive post-match brawl led by Leandro Paredes. Which brings us to the number 15. That is the shockingly low number of touches Lionel Messi had in this match. At 39 years old, his best chance was stuffed way back in the 5th minute. This was very likely his final World Cup match, closing out a legendary international career without securing that back-to-back title.
But off the pitch, the business side of the sport is hitting completely new heights. Fox Sports and Telemundo projected over 55 million U.S. viewers for the final. That is a record-breaking U.S. audience, and it fundamentally transforms their leverage as they walk into negotiations with FIFA for the 2030 World Cup broadcast rights. It's a total game changer.
Okay, on to Section 3, Tech Shifts, AI in Chaotic Transition. The business and tech sector is completely reshaping itself overnight. Take Oracle, for instance. 30,000, that's how many employees they laid off in March. We are talking about the largest tech layoffs since IBM all the way back in 1993. It's an 18% cut to their global headcount. And the reason? To free up cash for a staggering $50 billion pivot directly into AI infrastructure and data centers. Now, what's really fascinating here is the sheer uncertainty dividing the AI community today. Free access to Anthropic's Fable 5 model expires at midnight tonight, and users are completely split on what comes next. About 40% think Opus 5 is dropping, 35% are banking on a 4th extension, and 25% expect to transition to paid credits. Nobody really knows for sure.
Let's do a rapid-fire rundown of the rest of the tech landscape. Google's Gemini 3.5 Pro missed its launch target for the 3rd time, so they're actually exploring a stopgap 3.6 flash release. On the hardware front, Lucid smart glasses are innovating by adding Claude AI, allowing for mid-conversation switching with ChatGPT. Geopolitically, the chip gear giant ASML is walking an incredibly tense tightrope between the US and China over AI equipment. Oh, and in entertainment, Netflix stock just plummeted to a 52-week low after missing their Q3 revenue guidance.
Finally, Section 4, Weather and Climate. The atmosphere shifts.
We're tracking some severe immediate extremes right alongside surprising long-term shifts. Right now, there are serious flash flood risks in Texas and a really hazardous high-pressure heat ridge building in the central U.S. for midweek. But if we look at the long-term forecast, NOAA just announced that a rare Atlantic La Niña is projected to actually suppress the 2026 hurricane season. It turns out the increased wind shear is unexpectedly fighting off those dangerously warm sea surface temperatures.
Which really leaves us with this final overarching thought. Between an escalating conflict blocking the Strait of Hormuz, these sweeping multi-billion-dollar tech industry transitions, and profound atmospheric shifts altering our weather patterns, how will our already fragile global supply chains adapt to survive the autumn? It is a massive, complex puzzle. But getting a grip on these sources is absolutely the first step. Thanks so much for learning with me today.